Hi, I'm Mike Harrington, and in 2014, I embarked on a health journey resulting in my losing over 200 pounds on my own. Since then, I've been sharing my story and have become an advocate for healthy living. Welcome to Mike Inspires Me, a podcast show about health, wellness, and amazing people to inspire you to take charge of your life and your health. Welcome back. I'd say I'm on a roll, but it's Pesach, and that's leavened bread. Just kidding. I don't keep kosher. Hey, so we're on part 5 this week of the 7 key things I did to set myself up for success with my 200-pound weight loss. And last week, we talked about part 4, which was what I focused on and my association with the end goal. And we got into great detail about how that helped me keep my mental focus sharp so that I didn't give up. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, you can go back to listen to that one, because today we're talking about part 5, always improving, trying new things, and adapting. It's a lot of stuff, right? So let's go ahead and we'll jump right in and I'll read the article to you. My journey was far from perfect process. I continually tweak my routines, try new exercises and eating plans, and observe the outcome. And it is a journey, not a destination. Many people focus on the end goal of losing all the weight. Of course, we talked on that last week, right? Which is only part of the story. And then that leads me to the next point, which is sustainability. But we'll get into that one next week. So let's talk about the always improving, trying new things, and adapting in a little more detail. Because really, I didn't get in this article, which I wrote several years ago, I didn't get into a lot of detail. And I think a lot of that may seem obvious, but I want to try to give you the specifics, examples that I did, so that it makes more sense in terms of, my thought process. So always improving is about, all right, I try something and it doesn't work out, and I'm like, okay, well, let me try something else. So that's also the trying new things, and it's adapting, right? So I guess all three are basically the same when we talk about it. But so let me give you a bigger example. So for 44 years, 20 something years as an adult, I struggled with gaining weight, losing weight, going on a diet or trying to exercise to lose weight, gaining back. And so I said, okay, none of this has worked. And I knew this time, now that I've gotten all the way up to well over 400 pounds, all right, I'm not going to go back and lose all this weight just to gain it all back. And this is it. This is forever. And so knowing that there could be roadblocks, knowing myself, knowing that, again, the things that I didn't work, I was going to have to try new things. And so it did require a little bit of kind of research, but, honestly, out there, as you know, in the health and fitness world and the diet and exercise world, there's a lot of conflicting information. And that did mean I tried different things. I mean, over the years, I had taken, years ago when they were around, I had taken diet pills. I tried a diet patch. I took Garcinia Cambogia after Dr. Oz said that was the thing to do. In fact, somebody thought that's how I lost all the weight. No. I tried a lot of things. And I said, all right, well, let me kind of stick to the basics. And the basics are, I need to kind of reduce and better what I'm eating, because I knew that, okay, if I'm getting that big, obviously I'm two things. I'm eating a lot, which I was, and I'm eating a lot of the wrong things, which I had to learn about. And so that's kind of there's a learning process in there, which I knew wasn't going to happen overnight. So when I embarked on the journey, one of the first things I did, of course, and I've mentioned this, was tracking all my food in a food tracker. And initially, all I did was track everything that went into my mouth. And you've heard me talk about it if you've heard my story, including NyQuil, which incidentally has 90 calories a serving. It's all alcohol and probably sugar or something else. But I kept track of that for a couple of reasons. One, I had no idea how much I was consuming. Two, I had no idea sort of the quality overall of what I was, of nutrients and things I was getting in, you know, all the stuff that we keep track of, macros, right? What are macros? So people who track their eating habits often talk about macros. They're talking about the amount of protein, the amount of carbohydrates, and the amount of fats that they're getting. Those are the three main things that they focus on, okay? And then you got all kinds of variations in between. People, you know, there's low carb, all kinds of stuff that's out there. But I didn't know where I was on any of that. All I knew is I had to improve it. I had to adapt. And, you know, I knew some things I wasn't used to. I wasn't used to eating a lot of vegetables. To be honest with you, I ate some. I only ate them because I had to. I didn't really particularly like vegetables. There were some that I do, but honestly, you know, I really only ate them because I just felt like I had to. I mean, I'd much rather have eaten, you know, carby breads and crackers and cookies and meats, cheeses, things like that, which, you know, I still eat, but, you know, I knew that some of those things were probably not helping. So along the way, as I was tracking the food, it was also helping me adapt and reduce. And so I had to kind of like, all right, well, if I'm going to lower the calories of what I'm eating, I could probably get more food onto my plate if I use lower calorie foods. Okay. And so I experimented with different things. I've tried, you know, there's shirataki noodles, which have practically 0 calories. And I still eat those. But it allowed me to eat noodles without much calories. I tried all kinds of things. I cut back on sugar in my coffee and other things so that I could still have those things. But I was trying to adapt so that I could still, because I liked being able to have a full stomach as all of us do, although I knew I need to kind of capture that line between satiation and capacity, where I often ate to capacity. Whole other subject we could talk about another time. That's part of my binge eating. I like a full stomach, right? But I had to really kind of think about, all right, well, how can I improve what I'm eating? How can I take a look at, all right, well, I like chili. Here's a good example, chili, all right? I love chili, and it's like, well, maybe I can add more vegetables to the chili. You add more tomatoes. Heck, you can add zucchini in there. I mean, some people may not like it. That may not be your thing. That's fine. But you know what? Doesn't bother me. In fact, some of the vegetables absorb the taste. Actually, cauliflower is a great thing to put in chili. If you chop it up a little bit, you put it in there. It gives you sort of that meaty-like bulk in there. They use cauliflower for pizza crust nowadays, right? Why not? But it also bulks out well in your chili, gives you a little more fiber. Of course, beans are going to give you nice fiber. Eventually, I experimented with different meat substitutes too in the chili, reducing some of the fat content. I mean, don't get me wrong. I loved me a nice beef chili, a ground beef, or hey, even better, using like stew meat. But I had to experiment. I had to adapt. Why? We'll go back to last week. The end goal. Right? I wanted that $10 million. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably want to go back and listen. Right? I wanted that end goal. So, we could get into a lot of specific details on all the different food adaptations I've done over time, but suffice it to say, I learned to sneak more vegetables into my diet so that I would eat them And now I've learned. I mean, I eat plain vegetables now. I don't mind. My taste has changed. In fact, I eat raw veggies 5 days a week for my snack during the day, and a little hummus and tomato dip I make. But let's talk about some of the other behavior things like fitness, right? So when I first started um, on the journey, I initially used these online workouts by my good friend Galad, Bodies in Motion with Galad. I had some videos that I purchased with a gift card my mom had gotten me. I had all kinds of his videos, but I started using. I had a series that were online that were like 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes, and it basically it just got me moving. I got up in the morning and I just did it. And that's initially what I did when I first started. That was, in fact, all I did. And it gave a good combination of light aerobic activity and some light resistance slash weight training, you call it, right? Muscle building. So that was a good start. And over time, I improved and adapted by adding other activities. So I can't remember exactly when it was happening, but I remember my wife, if for you don't know, Terry started asking me to come for walks with her. And I remember thinking how boring it is. And it's hilarious to think about this now because, I mean, up to my craziest, I've walked 23 miles, I think, in a day. But that's another story too. But now I'm like the hike guy, hike with Mike, right? But and I walk every day too during my lunch break. And I love walking. But back in those days, Terry took me out for, and I just found it boring and tedious. And it's like, huh. But over time, I kept pushing myself and doing it. And I think with the walking, eventually transformed into hiking, and which it's very convenient too, because if you're walking a couple of hours, eventually, well, we're all adults here. Eventually, you have to use the facilities, and sometimes you're out very, very far, and there's nowhere around if you're on the streets. And what's great about the woods is, hey, it's nature. And we won't get into all the details, maybe TMI, but heck, there's another advantage of hiking, right? Although you got to just watch out for other people. But it's easy when you're a guy, when you're out in the woods. Catch my drift. The whole point is I started adapting and adding a new type of walking into my behavior. Now, I was, when I was a kid, I used to play in the woods. I used to walk in the woods, like I've always said, hiking is just walking in the woods, but I never actually too often got out on trails. I did a little bit, me and some of my friends that I grew up with and scouts. I did too. We did a little bit of trail walking, but I didn't do a lot, not as nearly as much as I do now. But that was an adaptation. Okay. That was an improvement. And I found something that it really resonated with me. And the funny thing is, as I mentioned, as with the vegetables and with the walking, I didn't like either of those things. And now I can't see my life without them. So go figure. So, I mean, there's a lot of us that'll say, well, I don't like this or that. And even though it's good for you, and I guess maybe you got to give it another chance. Maybe you got to give it another try, or maybe you got to try something different, try new things. I mean, I understand if you've got allergies or this or that, but if there's no reason that you can't eat broccoli if you don't like it, maybe eat the way you prepare it. If you like garlic, take it and cook it in some, in some garlic, put a little drizzle some olive oil on it or something. But those things are good for you. That it's going to improve your health. And if that's certainly your goal, I mean, if you're going to come to me and tell me you've got, I don't know, 50 pounds to lose, but you don't want to change the way you eat, well, there's not much we can do here. I mean, sorry, but majority of fat loss, if that's your goal, is made in the kitchen. And take it from me. Everybody's going to try. There's people out there that are trying to tell you can do fat loss in the gym. You can go out and run. You cannot outrun a bad diet. Okay. Although there are no such thing as bad food, right? That's what they say. Well, hey, there's foods that'll kill you. So, but I digress. You got to learn over time to adapt. Even now, give you another example, an example that I'm looking, that I'm dealing with. I've changed some of my weightlifting and morning routines a little bit because of some leg discomfort I've had. And I haven't talked a lot about it, but I have iliotibial syndrome in my left leg. And it's not damage. It's just sort of an overuse tightness in my left leg, and it causes some discomfort, and I'm having a little pain. And so I've had to add in more stretching routine. I've had to adapt. And so I actually, also on the weekends, I used to lift weights. I'm going to say it was about 5-6 days a week. Now I'm doing about 3 days a week, resistance training. I feel bulky enough. My muscles are strong, and I'm beefy enough. I actually want to tone down a little bit. I am still doing all the resistance training, and just because that is good to keep your muscles strong. But I adapt, because to be too rigid, you're not going to be able to change, and your body needs that flexibility to be able to adapt. I mean, heck, you've seen me if you follow some of my videos and stuff. I'll go out when I go camping, and I'll take my resistance bands with me and my suspension trainer, and I'll work out in the woods, getting muscle workout out there. I adapt. I don't make an excuse and say, oh, well, I can't do this or that because of the fact that, I don't have access to my weights. In fact, I try to make sure that all my activity is sustainable. And that's why I do those things. I mean, hiking worked all through the pandemic. And my gym in the basement worked all through the pandemic. I changed nothing. And I'm not bragging about that. That's the sole reason I did it. Because when people tell me about certain things, programs they get on and this and that, I was like, well, what are you going to do if it goes away? You got to be able to adapt. And if you can't adapt to life, these things are going to throw, they're going to throw curveballs to you. And then next thing you know, you're back to where you were again. And I wasn't having that with my health and all the work I knew I was going to put into this. Okay. You hear me complain sometimes, even recently. When I make mistakes and stuff, yeah, I'm sometimes a little tough on myself, but overall, I'm happy. And I'm happy because I know that I always have the ability to take a step back and go, all right, this isn't working. I need to take a look at this and try something different, because I'm going to keep going back. That end goal, that association with I'm going to keep talking about the $10 million, because I know if you haven't listened to it, you're going to go back to last week, episode 4, the focused on association with the end goal. I keep thinking about that. And I go, all right, I got to find another way, because I don't want to blow it. Remember when I talked about the $10 million? Same with weight loss, right? Somebody goes, and wins 10 million, $100 million, and they blow it all. Oh, man, if you can blow $100 million, whew. But anyway, you blow $10 million. I guess nowadays it's not hard. You blow $10 million. But the point is, I didn't want to blow it. I've got that $10 million now. I wish it was money, but I got that $10 million now, and I'm not giving it up. And I got to figure out different ways, that I hang on to it. It's going to sound like desperation. It's not, because I've made it easy for myself. I've made it easy for myself because I don't allow the roadblocks. It's like, I've talked about this while I'm hiking. I'm going down a path. There's a tree down in the middle of the path. Sometimes I could step over it. Sometimes if the tree is too thick or if there's too much, I got to go around it. Sometimes it's above the trail. I can go under it. But I find a way to keep on the path. I adapt. I'm always adapting. And, if you keep that kind of mindset and you say, well, you know what? They talk about, like a door, try another door, right? Or, if the door is locked, try another door, or, whatever the analogies are with it. It's that you can't we can't predict in life what's going to happen. I mean, I've had, and I'm sure you too, all kinds of crazy things happen over this past year that I couldn't have predicted. But because of that, I had to have a way to be able to be prepared. And it's that adaptive behavior that I have. I mean, As I said before, I've been told by people, that I'm resilient, and maybe that's what it is too. It's resilience. It's that, okay, you know what? I'm not letting this bring me down. I've come too far. So you got to examine for yourself, what are the things where you have, I'm going to use the word, what are your excuses? Okay? Why you can't do what you know you need to do? And what can you do to get yourself to do them? And sometimes you got to muster it up like I did initially. But you also have to enjoy it. Okay. And that is something that I thoroughly advocate, because I really don't think it's going to be, and that's the next thing we're going to next week talk about sustainability. You won't be able to sustain it, your health, if you don't like what you're doing. So, you got to think in there how you can get yourself to that point. Like I said, with the walking, I mean, look at me now. I love walking. It's mental health. It's, I put my my podcast or my music on when I'm out walking in the street, or I go out in the woods for hours at a time and just absorb nature. And, I love it. Or with the vegetables and things now, I've become a health nut, whereas I was the complete opposite before. Well, I hope that helps you understand a little bit more of the mindset of always improving, trying new things, and adapting. If you've got questions for me, you can reach out to me at mike@mikeinspiresme.com. Keep looking out for new things that are going to help you. Keep your focus on your health being your number one priority, and your happiness will come too. I hope you're doing well wherever you are, and stay awesome. Hey friends, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mike Inspires Me podcast. Stay tuned for future episodes and check out some of the past ones you may have missed. For more information on me and my story, go to mikeinspiresme.com. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Mike Harrington Official, and on Twitter at Mike Inspires Me. Stay healthy and stay awesome.